So I've seen a lot of people commenting on Mel's smirk in the reunion episode of the Ultimatum Queer Love. So I thought I could do a deep dive into Mel and help make a little sense of her situation. And that smirk actually has a therapeutic name, by the way, and I'm going to tell you what that is. And most of her behaviors actually can be summed up due to one condition that I'd love to share with you. So my name is Catherine Sloan. I've been a licensed therapist for 20 years, and I also have a wife and a house full of stinky teenagers and a preteen. So please keep us in your thoughts and prayers, and please hit subscribe and help me keep the trolls out of the comments, since I am an LGBTQ content creator. Social media can be really a brutal place for us, as you probably know. And I'll be using my lesbian dating survival guide, because dating should not be harder than coming out. And I obviously didn't use any AI for these graphics.
So I think you're gay.
Wow, thank you.
So Mel is very triggering for a lot of people, and some of the reasons are really obvious because she lies a lot. But let's break it down from a psychological perspective so we can understand why people do what they do, because that's the goal of therapy, is to make the unknown known. Now, just as a disclaimer, I realize this is a very edited reality show. I don't know everything about her, and my point is that it's really important not to label any one person as all good or all bad. Usually on reality TV, shows will want to create this narrative about somebody where that's the case, but it's usually not true. And I'm just going to go by what I've been shown on the show, which actually is not that much information. I could probably learn more from her in 2 sessions than I got from this entire show. Now, I also cannot diagnose anyone just based on a reality TV show. No one can. This is just for entertainment purposes.
My question was, what happened with us? Oh, you don't want to be with me anymore. Is that true? I mean, I broke up with her.
Based on what she has told us about her childhood, she is displaying symptoms of CPTSD, which stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder. This is different from regular PTSD because it's a series of traumatic events that happen to her in her childhood, not just one traumatic event. CPTSD often arises from prolonged interpersonal trauma in childhood. So there's abuse and neglect and emotional betrayal where the child was not able to escape and they weren't safe. Based on what she said throughout the episodes, she called 4 different people mother, which means there were very unstable relationships around her. The cops were called to her home over and over. Her grandmother died, so she lived with her uncle. And there was a lot, she was exposed to a lot of domestic violence. And she says she lived on her own since she was like 16 or 17. And also she says she was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder as a teen. And this was possibly due to long-term chronic stress as a child, possibly. It's just speculation. I'm just trying to brainstorm different things that could be happening with her.
When I was growing up, after my grandma passed, I lived with my uncle and his girlfriend. She would use me to help crack his passwords on the computer so that she could find out if he's like cheating. The cops were at our house every day because they were physically getting into it with each other.
She says she doesn't have any family that she's close to, so I'm sure that a lot has happened to her, stuff that she probably hasn't even told anybody. What we sometimes see when somebody has complex PTSD from childhood neglect is frequent lying or distortions, distorting the truth. There's a lot of emotional withdrawal, or we call it avoidant attachment, and incongruent affect. So that's what that smirk was. It's when the affect or the person's facial expression doesn't match the true feeling of the person. So having CPTSD disrupts emotional regulation, which leads to, we say, like incongruent displays, like smiling when feeling intense shame or vulnerability or anxiety. So this can be the nervous system's way of like deflecting a discomfort, an uncomfortable feeling. So it's signaling like I'm fine or I'm maintaining some control when they're actually feeling really overwhelmed or exposed. So while it might appear flippant or cold, it's often this deeply ingrained automatic response to an emotional threat. It's an unconscious behavior. So what we see with Mel throughout the entire season is her displaying these symptoms that are congruent with CPTSD. Again, just speculation, not at all a clinical diagnosis. I don't know her. I've never met her.
Is I struggle to see myself in a very long-term, committed relationship. I've never seen a happy married couple in my immediate life.
So let's talk about the lies. People who are struggling with CPTSD, they engage in what we call survival lies, and this isn't out of malice. It's really to shield emotional pain that they aren't ready to express. These are all just like unconscious behaviors. Until the very end, she couldn't be honest about having sex with Dana, but in my opinion, this is how you say yes without saying yes.
So, Mel, by definition, did you have sex with Dana?
3 hours later.
By whose definition? Your definition.
As a counselor, I can assure you that the long silence is a yes. But she was doing damage control because everybody else was there. Then they got into that annoying conversation about what sex really is, which is really just missing the point.
Cut it with that. You know that one is problematic. You know it's not looking good, okay?
So people like Mel who grow up in a chaotic or unpredictable household can often become neurologically and emotionally wired to expect instability. So much so that a calm, secure relationship actually feels unfamiliar, or it gets boring. So without even realizing it, they may be unconsciously seeking out drama, these emotional highs and lows, or partners that replicate that early chaos because it feels more normal to their nervous system to be dysregulated than a steady, healthy relationship does.
I don't know. I mean, we constantly said we were very similar, and I think that that was like the epitome of like, not the bad sides of us, but just the irresponsible sides of us that were just like hyping each other up all the time. So.
And this could be what Mel saw in Dana. It probably is. She saw that they could just be trouble together, and she craves that chaos because it feels familiar. So let's talk about attachment styles. There are 4 attachment styles, and she appears to have avoidant attachment, which is the way we relate and connect with other people. This develops from early childhood experiences where if the child is being vulnerable, it's met with rejection. So this leads to a deep fear of dependence and a strong need for self-sufficiency. That's why these people will often avoid intimacy or avoid commitment and withdraw in situations where their partners are asking for more connection. She was pretty clear about this in the show. She stated she didn't see how she could really trust anybody or be what somebody else needed in a long-term relationship. And I wish we knew what happened with Mel and Marie after their engagement. That would help a lot. We have so many questions that went unanswered. Mel just says, she left me, she didn't want to be with me.
And was what happened with us? Oh, you don't want to be with me anymore. Is that true? I mean, I broke up with her, ironically enough, before the episodes aired.
But it's interesting because sometimes people will say this because they don't want to look like the bad guy. And her saying this makes it seem like Marie was the one who messed it all up, when we all know that Marie should have left a long time ago. They should have not been together. And Mel just isn't in a healthy enough place to get married. You're not supposed to feel like getting married one day, but not the next, and then changing your mind from day to day. And Mel probably just decided to propose on the last day of the show because she just didn't want to look bad.
I'm sure today. I could be unsure tomorrow, but then I'll be sure the next day, and then I'll be unsure again the next day. And
now, just because somebody has childhood trauma that can cause them to have CPTSD, and we can have empathy for them because of what they went through, but this doesn't mean that they can use this as an excuse for bad behavior. And it's okay for people to set clear boundaries with them or not want to be in their lives at all. And in intimate relationships, if you get into a relationship with somebody with these issues, it doesn't mean that you need to stay with them to be the one to save them or show them true love, because they can only save themselves. Now, Mel will probably attract people who are people pleasers, somebody with anxious or disorganized attachment style. And since Mel has avoidant attachment, people with anxious attachment style will be attracted to her because it keeps them in the anxious avoidant trap, which is a way we carry out these patterns from childhood. So Marie has anxious attachment, Mel has avoidant attachment, and they're stuck in this trap. And this is a common pairing for couples, actually. My guess is that they've had a tumultuous relationship where there's always this push-pull dynamic. But the good news is that this cycle can be broken. Couples can learn to manage this as long as they're aware that it's happening. I see couples like this all the time, and we can work on breaking that cycle. In fact, there are also treatments for CPTSD too, and any seasoned trauma therapist will know how to treat issues like this. And we always have hope that people can change and get better, and I hope that Mel can get better and heal as well. So I'm going to leave this on a positive note and show you a video of my youngest son singing and dancing to The Giver.
You ain't gotta tell me, it's just in my nature, so take it like a taker. Baby, I ain't no need to hug you. Okay, that's enough. I get the